Welcome. You are at the CCC.
Where there are no outside issues. My name's Anthony. I'm an addict and an alcoholic, another bozo on the bus, and I care about you.
Yes, and I'm LouiLou. My pronouns are he and him, and I am in recovery for crystal meth and alcohol, and I'm always in search of balance. Yes, and each week we strive to foster a brave space where we can engage in conversations centered around topics of recovery.
And our intention is to hold and inspire better spaces for more people in recovery by tackling issues sometimes used to separate us.
Yes, but before we do that, please like, share, comment, and rate this episode.
Rate the episode, ding that bell, leave a comment.
Yeah.
And we are buying time because the intro music is so long.
It's a 12-inch
mix. And other disclaimers, the thoughts and opinions expressed on At the CCC are ours alone. We do not represent anyone but ourselves. In other words, the information and all the other things we talk about are for general information purposes only. In other words, we are just a couple of friends behind a mic here to entertain you. Mm-hmm. And before we jump into anything, as a crew, we thought that because today is 9/11, we should take a second to remember and honor the lives lost by brave individuals who risk everything to save others. This day serves as a reminder of the resilience and strength that emerge in the face of immense tragedy. We hold space for those who are still impacted by the trauma and loss, and we are reminded of the importance of unity, compassion, and kindness in our communities. So RIP, those folks that we lost in 9/11, and that's it. Any other thoughts?
No, I couldn't top what you just said. I'm not going to top it.
Yeah. So how is everyone?
I am good. I'm like on fire. I do this thing where I like. Lately, especially after Kamala joined the race and watching TikToks. And
let's talk about
watching
that.
People on the other side freak out. And so I had been looking forward to the debate, and I was not disappointed.
No,
not at all.
And so we have a guest here today.
We do,
and her name is
Ana Maria Rivera.
She said that while playing maracas.
My pronouns are she, her, or daddy, depending on the time and day.
Oh, I love that.
And what's your love language?
Touch and tacos.
That's right. You heard it here.
Yes.
Touch and tacos.
Absolutely.
I am. Were you done, Anna?
Yes.
So I'm okay. I'm tired.
How are you?
No. It wasn't. That wasn't like the transition. I was just saying.
Well, normally it is because I'm in.
I know.
I remember the one show where I'm
all old hat.
It's not that you're the victim, but you're somewhere in between, not the victim and the victim.
Yeah. So I started my new role a few weeks ago, and
He's got a job.
I have a job. I'm in my pre-doc right now, and I love it. I absolutely am in love with it. I love the people I work with. My clinical supervisors are brilliant. The work is I couldn't be happier,
Nice. That makes sense.
I feel like a pig in shit.
A pig and shit?
Like a pig in shit.
Oh,
really
pig and
happy,
shit, huh? Oh, okay, got
thriving, living.
Yeah,
okay.
like a pig in shit. So I'm having a really good time. The training is really intense and it's all very fast paced, but I love it. The only bad part is that it's an hour commute for me.
Oh.
Which I'm still getting used to. Like the last, so I've been 3 weeks in, and it's been kind of, draining. Other than that, I'm fine.
Okay, well, this is good to hear.
Yeah, I just turned 40 a few weeks ago.
Ooh, 40.
I love this.
I know,
It's like
40.
This has been Virgo season.
It has been Virgo
Yes.
season.
Yes.
It has.
Hard to believe that I was 13 or 14 when you were born.
Wow.
You're
Where's the
13
shade
years
button?
older than me?
I'm 14, actually 14 years older than you.
14 years older than me?
Yeah, I'm
Oh, wow.
54.
You're 54?
Yes, you didn't know that?
Fantastic. No, I didn't.
I know. It's a lot of giving other people my grief.
I was waiting for something like drink water or moisturizer. So today's topic. So this month we're talking about controversial topics. jokes, everything from like race and politics and all those other things that make people argue during Thanksgiving.
Yeah. And you know, it's important to note too, we
What?
titled this Race and Politics, but we're going to talk about everything.
Yeah, we're going to talk about everything
So,
that's a little controversial.
kind of the way we do anyway. And it's like we're going to end it with a little whipped cream and cherry on the top.
That's
Sex.
right.
Well, I think that makes sense because I really do feel like politics and race touch every part of my life.
Yeah.
And most people that I know. So
Absolutely. You know what? Actually, I don't know if I was in the room or it was online or whatever the situation was, but there was an individual was talking about, actually, it might have been in my drag family. They were talking about drag, and I don't like to be political in drag. And I'm all, honey, don't you understand that drag is political?
Drag is political.
Hell,
Yeah. What?
the
putting on a wig and getting on
decisions
stage.
I make in the morning. You know, just about everything. There's politics in what I decide to wear today. You know, it's like,
Or you know what? Let's take it another step further. If you are in if you belong to a marginalized group, you are in a politicized body. So whether you like it or not, the politics are put on your body.
And I'm glad you said that because that's exactly what I was thinking. I mean, I wake up trans, I wake up as an immigrant. And so like
Let's
me
go.
existing
Yeah.
is political.
Yep, let's go.
and kind of like what we were talking about before. If you feel like you can take a break from thinking about this or talking about this,
Privilege.
that's privilege.
Okay, that's okay. Say that.
Privilege.
Yes, exactly.
Say that. Let's say it again for the people in the back.
Privilegio.
Yeah.
Privilege.
Okay. Well, let's explain that a little bit more,
Yeah.
right? Okay. Now I'm excited.
Yeah.
So, well, my first thought is like, for example, okay. I'll tell you about a story.
Okay.
I got a story. I was
love
working at this research and insights firm, and everyone was white, and we were working with. Oh my god, I don't know if that's a booger or if it's.
I love that we're always
spit.
talking about his body parts.
I
And
know.
body functions
I don't even know why I'm like
gases
that.
and
I don't
everything.
know why I'm like that. So
It's one thing to let people get to know you, but to get to know you.
yeah, I'm not sitting over here like wiping my hand with my ass and putting it on you.
Okay, but
So
I-
listen.
But I'm worried because I feel like that's where it's headed.
Yeah. Y'all gonna start calling me Typhoid Tony.
Oh my God.
I like that.
Typhoid Tony. Okay, so I was working at this research and insights firm, and I was getting ready to present to this like big name client, and it was gonna be my first time doing it. And she said, the girl that I was working with, she says to me, "Oh, Anthony, don't worry about it. If you fumble, it's fine. They're not gonna care. Everyone here is very nice, blah, 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 blah." And I'm like, no. That's not the way that works, right? Like there's already so much happening, right? It's like, I'm hyper aware of the fact that I'm a man of color. I'm a gay man. There were just all these other variables, and I was stepping into the space. So even if what she was saying was true, that doesn't change that like I have had experiences in the past that would make me uncomfortable in that situation.
Absolutely.
Right? So on one end, it's like, okay, sure, this could be a very great environment, but that doesn't mean I don't have the experiences I have. And for you to suggest that my reality is somehow different, is privilege.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? It's like
For sure.
because you don't live a life, and you don't have experiences that could get you to see the way I see things. Right? Like that's a privilege. Right? It's like walking into a store and never feeling like you have to look over your shoulder and someone's going to be watching you. That's
Oh God,
a
yes.
privilege,
Oh
you know?
my God. Well, like at my job,
Yeah.
I'll tell this story and then we should ask her some questions.
Yeah.
At my job, I have to encourage people not to. I always joking to say when they go through shopping with their own bag and they put things in the bag, I tell them, unfortunately, because of the environment, we have to be extra vigilant. And I would not want you to be stopped or asked a question because, and I shouldn't have to say that. We have baskets and things there. It's like, but I know for a fact, I think I knew that coming out of the womb. I don't shop with my own bags.
Right.
I just don't do
Right,
it.
right,
I
right.
don't even carry an empty one around because somebody's going to be like, what are you planning to do with that?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah. So.
Right. Or like recently, I think, I don't know, what do you have were you going to say something?
Well, no, I was just going to say that, when we are having the conversation of privilege, even I have to at times kind of check myself, because even though I'm an immigrant and I'm trans, I'm light skinned. And with light skinned comes privilege. You know, I come from a family where most of my siblings are way, way darker than me.
And I've seen you abuse it. I've seen, I'm not. Yeah.
Wow. Oh my goodness. You know what? I'm out. No. But it's just, for me, it's interesting because I, for the longest time, didn't realize what was going on around me when little things would happen to my siblings and not me. And it wasn't until I, you know, grew older, learned a few things, learned some language behind that, and realized, you know, that I have some privilege. And I think privilege majority of the time comes in the way the system is set up for everybody. But then there's also smaller privileges, light-skinned, having an education. I think that's a big one, especially when you're talking about trans people of color.
Yeah.
So yeah.
In response to we all have some privilege, because as a cis male, even as a black cis male, a black gay cis male, I have privilege. Like, I always, when I'm talking to somebody about this idea of privilege, I always kind of liken it to, like, if I don't have to take it into consideration, then that's my privilege. If I can walk through this day without thinking about it, just like I can't turn the fact off that I'm a black man.
Yeah.
I can maybe kind of not talk about the fact that I'm gay and butch it up or whatever. But as far as being a black man, you know, like whenever I would have people tell me I don't see color, I'm all, well, you don't see me, because every time I look in the mirror, that's who I am. And so it's like, yeah.
So I have a working definition for privilege, just to kind of make it a little bit more concrete for people who may be listening and are unfamiliar with the idea. So privilege refers to the unearned advantages or benefits that individuals or groups possess based on their membership in a dominant or favored social category. Right. So these advantages can manifest in various forms, such as race, gender, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, ability, or education. Privilege often operates in subtle ways, giving those who possess it access to resources, opportunities, or power that others may not have, simply due to their identity or background. It exists in contrast to oppression or disadvantage, and can shape experiences in ways that those with privilege may not always be consciously aware of.
You know, and what I will say is, like, okay, so, and not faulting anyone just because of frustration and everything, but there are some people who use the discussion about privilege as a weapon or whatever, and it's made it so that certain other groups are the ones who really benefit from certain privileges. Privilege has become the N-word for them. Like, you better not say it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with having privilege. It's not the having privilege that's a problem. It's a not acknowledging that you have the privilege and thinking that you've somehow gotten what you got just because you've worked hard.
And I would take it even a further step. It's not acknowledging, you know, your advantage, but also once realizing what your advantage is, doing nothing. Doing nothing, sitting by and letting whatever it is continue for others. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. There's nothing worse than like, oh, I'm an ally. But I'm like, you only come out in support once a year. For this example, for Pride, you know, it's like all these corporations coming out, oh, I have this bag that's rainbow. And it's like, you know, why aren't you giving money to the shelters and the, you know.
The day after Pride, all those corporations.
Oh, I know.
They put the stuff away.
It's so ridiculous.
You better not never talk about Pride again.
Oh, I know. It's so awful.
I'm looking.
Anthony's fact checking us.
Well, no. These motherfuckers. No, I was there. I came across this meme the other day, but basically what I liked about it was that it was saying that there's some people who walk around as though the life that they have just came out of nowhere, right? It's not because they had the resources. It's not because they had, you know, like parents who like helped them start a little ahead other people, right? It's just this idea that because they are like innately capable or innately, right? So this kind of, which for people outside of that can be very infuriating. Yeah. I've been having that experience a lot recently where, you know, so I just started this pre-doc and I'm surrounded by these people and like, I don't have a car, right? and I live in the TL. And I'm like, here I am with all of these degrees, and I've talked about this before. Like, if I got kicked out of my place, God forbid, I'd be back in the projects because that's where my family is, right? So like that is a reality. There isn't a safety net for me, and so here I am, all these degrees. I've worked really hard, and even now, right? Like there's still this like disparity between like what I have to do, for example, just to get to work versus what other people have to do just to get to work.
Yeah.
Hey, oh my God. Have you seen the news? Okay. I feel like this is connected.
But tell me.
It has everything to do with affirmative action and Asian students who brought the lawsuit. Because the whole idea was that I think that there was a group of Asian students who were complaining because they felt like African Americans were getting.
Was this at Harvard? Because
Yeah.
Harvard Med School.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then
This is not the first time.
And
yeah.
because of the lawsuit, the affirmative action was taken away, and reports have shown that entrance for the African Americans is still the same, but there's been a reduction in the number of Asian students. So basically, they kind of shot themselves in the foot.
Oh, interesting. Were you going to say something, Anna?
Mm-mm.
And really, I think first it speaks to the fact that the powers that be, whoever the powers that be is, it's like, we talk them, I can't define who them is, but any force that is really kind of working to divide the groups and everything, their messaging is on point to have folks who have been benefiting from this structure.
Yeah.
Trying to kind of make sense, even if it's just a Band-Aid solution to policies that are just so anti POC or whatever, but to really kind of get them to do their job. That to me, that's brilliant. There's no other word. It's sorcery.
I find that so interesting because, like you said, they ended up shooting themselves in the foot. And I think that also speaks on, minority communities coming for each other.
Oh, God, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's like they feel like you're taking something away from them. And it's like, no, we're all trying to fight for something. And we all need to work together, because I just find that so sad.
Yeah, it's terrible.
So sad.
There's so much here, and this is so rich. I wrote that down. Like,
well, what I love is that this conversation took on its own life. Like the whole, even just the mention of privilege, just really kind of sparked. Like, this is rich,
right? And
I told you it was going to happen. I told you.
Well, the thing is that what I think often gets conflated is someone.
I love it when he uses big words. My nipples are hard.
What I think people combine that they don't necessarily always go together. Although I can understand why it happens is like when we group up race with socioeconomic status, right? Like sometimes we pair those things together because there are some correlations between them. I bring that up to say that we've talked about this before about how there are more similarities socioeconomically between the races.
Oh, absolutely.
Right,
for sure.
than people outside of it. And so, for example, like one group that I think gets left outside of conversations a lot are like poor white people.
And we talked about this is why Trump and his people, they said, hey, we're going to make them feel special. And that's why.
Right.
And I think that's why they're biting.
Right. And so, and my point there is that low socioeconomic status has a lot of. Okay. Oh my God. There's so much happening in my head. It's all so okay.
Breathe. Yes.
Okay. So when you're poor, there are a lot of fucked up things that happen.
Yes.
Your health outcomes are really poor. Your mental health outcomes are really poor. Your quality of life is really poor, right? And that's something that affects people across all races.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
And that I think is where there could be a lot more solidarity, but we don't have it, right? And part of that I think is because of the way like political agents use race to kind of to separate us, right? Like even the idea behind like the model minority.
Oh yeah.
Right. I just wanted to throw those things out there.
Cool beans.
Cool beans. There's just like so much, and I feel like I'm not doing it justice. But there's just so many different things
components
there.
How often?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I a few years back, I was at a conference that was held in Palm Springs, and we were at breakfast or lunch or whatever the situation was. We're all eating, and the conversation took a turn that I didn't expect when we started to talk about race. We started talking about it. And what I noticed is that all of the individuals around the table, slowly but surely, like it's almost like clockwork. You'd see them shut down and excuse themselves. And it was not lost on me. And I was thinking, it's like, oh my God, if we're talking about something that you value or you think is important, then let's talk about it. But as soon as the conversation went one way, because when I started, it's kind of like when I started, the train has left the station. Don't get me started because I'm going to talk about it.
But I find that so sad that people start shutting down. I mean, I feel like race and politics, for me, at least in my household, it's one of those things that I feel like depending on how you're coming at the situation, you can talk about anything. Like even as a child, I found it odd that you couldn't really have those conversations around, race, politics, money, and sex.
Well, it informs us. It's like if I'm paying attention to that, I mean, I'm being patient with those folks who aren't ready for those conversations, but it's also good information. It's telling me, I need to surround myself with folks who are not afraid to have those conversations because there's still some learning that I want to do, and I can't do it if I'm not able to have these conversations. That's why I love the podcast, because I feel like before the podcast there was a void. There was a void in having these deep conversations, especially after the country club was remodeled, because the format of the country club before it had this living room space. It felt
drop-in center.
It felt more. It felt more like a living room, and we would spend lots of time here, just having conversation, just going here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah.
And now it's still lovely, but it feels more like a cafe or whatever. It's very few opportunities for us to kind of gather around and just have these conversations.
To some degree, it feels clinical.
Exactly. This
Clinical.
podcast has served us well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I just quickly wanted to go back and talk about, a privilege. Because I think, yes, something that we can talk a lot about. For me, one of the things that I am very grateful for, and it's weird to find privilege in it, but for me, it holds true. A lot of trans Latinas that, come from other countries, other Latin American countries, aren't lucky to get the education. I was fortunate to get an education because of being in foster care, and that allowed me to be able to have the job that I have today. And I, to this day, will go out of my way to, bring and support my sisters and brothers and refer them and help them get an education, because I know that I am so lucky to have what little education I have. And I just wanted to say that before I forget, because I'm very,
Yeah, well, you reminded me of something. So we were talking about like privilege, and what I love that I've heard about this is like it's when you use privilege or your access to lift other people up, right? It's not right, like that is the proper use of privilege, or at least I think is like the best use of it.
No, I agree.
Right.
That's
It's like
how
when
you're a genuine ally.
Or at
as
least make an
well.
effort. I love it. It used to bug me. Like I would hear people say, especially a lot of the millennials or whatever, they say, you can't just call yourself an ally. You have to be kind of invited into. And so it bugged me at first, but then I realized that's right, because just because I say I'm an ally doesn't mean I'm an ally.
Very true.
Like, I mean, like it really, because it's like, I mean, if I'm saying I'm an ally and I'm still behaving in a destructive way towards the folks that I'm supposed to be an ally to.
And the biggest example for me that comes from what you just said is Caitlyn Jenner. I remember when Caitlyn Jenner transitioned, and all of a sudden I had all my non-queer white friends talking about, oh my God, now you have someone to look up to. Ooh. Now you have someone that, gets you. And I literally froze, because I was just like, in my mind, how dumb can you be? We have nothing in common other than something, not trivial, but something that's just our the way we present ourselves to the world,
Absolutely.
the way we live our lives. But other than that, I will never have access to even a quarter of what that woman has. Do you know what I mean? And she's still, to this day, endorsing policies and endorsing people that for the community that, doesn't have those privileges.
And correct me if I'm wrong in saying this, because this is where it makes it hard to have conversations. But I feel like she's tapping into the male privilege too. That
Oh, for sure,
that she had,
for sure.
And most trans women don't get to do that.
Yep.
Say more about that. What do you mean?
Well, no, first off, she has affluence. She's still like, even in her transition, she still has access to spaces that some people would never have. Like, and a lot of it's because of her politics. Like, they may be talking about her or whatever, but she still has access to those spaces.
And let's be honest, a lot of the people that she's supporting, a lot of the conservatives, yes, they use the right pronouns, but I'm pretty sure they're still, talking about her behind her back as a white man with influence.
Because she's saying,
you know what I mean?
Because she's saying everything that they want to hear. Like,
Of
she's
course.
complaining about what trans people in sports, bathrooms, all that stuff. She's saying it and making it's like she's tampering and making the conversation easier more palatable for them.
Of course.
Oh God, I'm so mad I could spit on Anthony. That's for you, since you like to talk about body fluids.
It's so funny. Was just looking.
I know
at
Anthony's
Caitlin.
fact checking us. I love it.
No. I was just looking at Caitlin to see what she's doing these
pictures
days.
of
What is she
Caitlyn
up
Jenner.
to these days?
Oh my God, it's like
She'd be looking crazy.
I'm scared to even, do a search on my internet because I don't need her in my algorithm at all.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. It's like, it's terrible because it's like, once you do that one search, all of a sudden, it's going to be across everything. And all of a sudden it's like when I have to explain myself to God, they're going to be like, why were you looking up a picture of
Caitlyn Jenner.
Caitlyn Jenner?
Yeah, I do not need that. Nope, I'm good.
You know what I was just thinking of is like there are all these like in talking about like race and politics and that there are all these ways of like having the conversation. And for me, like I feel like I'm already planning on walking away from this feeling like, oh my God, there was like so much we could have said or so much that like there are points that we could have made. And I think the feeling of overwhelm is coming from the fact that like it is so loaded. Like when we talk about race, right? Like I'm sure everyone at this table right now, if the topic was how many times a day are you reminded of like your race or your socioeconomic class, right? Like that by itself could be
A topic.
that by itself could be a
sure.
topic, and I think one of the things, I forget, I think it's called minority fatigue, but there's this idea, I think it was by this scholar, last name is Steele from Stanford.
Shelby Steele?
No,
Please
God,
don't.
it's
Please
Steele.
do not
No.
talk about Shelby Steele.
No, I forgot his. Oh gosh, last name is Steele. He's like he was the thinker behind Stereotype Threat.
Yeah.
But so there's another idea has to do with fatigue. Right. And it's like the fatigue of being in a marginalized body.
Well, I mean, I definitely do feel like half the time I'm exhausted from just being me.
Right.
If that's what you're talking about.
Right. Exactly. Like,
but I feel like that's where, privilege comes in because I don't have the luxury of putting putting myself away.
Claude Steele. Yeah. Claude Steele. I've been, Claude
Well, the
Steele.
term was coined by the researchers Claude Steele and Joshua Aronson.
Yeah.
Look at it. I'm pulling at Anthony. I'm all
Steele I'm familiar with the most. Yeah. But yeah, there's fatigue, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like just for example, like, well, obviously if you're making like less than minimum wage, even if you are making minimum wage, right? It's like, what's your sleep like? Are you even able to sleep? Do you have to have two jobs, right? Do you have to, like, how does that influence how other people see you and what you do, right? If you're like a young gay boy or girl, or or a trans kid and you're 9 years old and you're surrounded by like, that's exhausting, or having to like code switch or having to explain yourself or having
when you're in a scenario or situation where you're the only.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden they think that you're going to be representative of.
Right.
I don't know what all black gay men think.
Right. Or this idea that like, oh girl, it's just in your head. It's not really happening. Oh no. Yeah. Go ahead.
Based on what you just said,
yeah.
It's really hard for me not to bring up something that just happened
Let's
at work.
hear it. Yeah.
I had a situation that I genuinely feel was transphobic with another coworker, and to not trigger myself, I would just fast forward a little bit. But I had a conversation with our HR representative, who is a white gay man, and I kid you not, I was in that conversation, and I know that he was in his little heart coming from such a good place. But then he brought the person and he was saying, oh, well, I work with this person all the time and there's never a problem.
No, bitch.
And immediately in my mind, I'm just looked at him and it took every ounce of me to not just scream at him privilege.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm like, you are a white man, educated white man, who is very monotone. You're not flamboyant. You're not loud. All things that I am, right? And now you're entering gaslighting territory. No. Maybe it's just something else because and it's like, no, you're not hearing me. These are and I had to break it down for him. I'm like, okay, so I hear what you're saying, but it doesn't change how I feel. There's this coworker who, for no other reason, I'm not her favorite person, and that's what she said to me. And I find it so interesting because I think if you're LGBT or a person of color, that tone, that look. I was straight up told I am not her favorite person. And then the way she looked at me from head to toe, right? And this is someone who I've worked with for months. And other than good morning and goodbye, I don't talk to this person. You don't know me. You know nothing of me other than what you hear in passing by. And I don't know. It was hard to describe to my HR representative who's gay and white because he may be able to empathize to some degree because he's a gay man, but he fully can't. And then just to dismiss my feelings,
absolutely,
it broke my heart. But unfortunately, I'm used to it. I'm used to, even my experiences when I started coming to the Castro Country Club. I had to educate gay white men on how to properly talk to not just a woman, but a trans woman,
absolutely.
And to a trans woman of color. The misogyny, the racism, like not in joking or satire, but like true,
absolutely.
And
but even in the joking, I've had to kind of educate myself, and I've had to change how I show up in that, because before I would think, oh yeah, I could get away with this, I get away with this because I'm gay. No, I can't, because if I want somebody to treat me a certain way, then I have to be open to hearing other people and giving them that same respect.
And that's true, especially that like immediately takes me to when I had to have a conversation with a few gay men that felt it was appropriate to touch my breast. Because other cis women would let them do that. And I was like, first of all, you don't know me.
Yeah.
I literally just met you a week ago. And you're making all these assumptions.
But I'm gay. It's like,
exactly. And that's what their, escape would be was, well, I'm a gay man. It doesn't matter. I'm like, it does matter. I specifically came to gay CMA to get away from being seen as a thing, from being touched. And, I specifically came to feel safe here. And unfortunately, I had to do a lot of educating to, feel safe in this environment.
That's a privilege that we all have. I'm sorry.
What's that?
Let me say sorry. Not taking into consideration that others show up with trauma, that they have trauma.
Oh yeah.
That's a good way of putting it.
No, exactly. Not taking that into consideration, because it's like, I'm just acting on how I know how to act and not thinking that's maybe like when I rush at somebody, or when I go give somebody a hug, or I'm not saying that I do it, but you know what I'm saying? It's like not thinking about things before you take action.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and you're reminding me of like the misogyny and sexism within the gay community, specifically around like gay men, right? Like, we look at the Castro, for example, which at one time was I wouldn't say dominated by lesbians, but there were many more lesbians here, and now there aren't any. I mean, like lesbians come to the Castro, but there aren't any like
they
designated
held us together
spaces.
after.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So so we have stuff like that, right? But like, why don't we have? Like, and why is it that lesbians are like relegated to one night rather than having their own club in the area?
They're smart.
Right.
They don't go out all the time.
Right. Well, but the point, and I mean, maybe that's like not the best because they're saving their money, Anthony.
Exactly.
Orale, they're trying to buy property in Guerneville.
Yeah.
Goodness.
But yeah, you're reminding me, there's also this great book. It's called The Erotic Life of Racism by Sharon P. Holland.
Oh, that sounds like a good read. Can you actually
The Erotic Life of The Erotic Life of Racism. And I went to
here. It's got a bibliography.
I went to this amazing talk at Bolt Law, UC Law, Berkeley Law years ago, and it was called The Erotic Life of Racism. And they were talking about how racism, for example, shows up on dating apps.
For sure.
Right? Like there's this great book. It's called Dataclysm. It was written by the three founders of OkCupid, and what they found was that like racism ran rampant on OkCupid.
Don't get me started on OkCupid.
Right, and then we also have like
kind of OkCupid.
Yeah. or like on the dating apps, how there's like among gay men, how like like white men are preferential and kind of universal, and then if you're a black man, it's harder if you're a bottom and you're not a top. You have to, right? So there are all these different things around like just being gay and just like the way racism shows up in sexuality or within our relationships. And for example, there's also like the idea of the mean gay whites, right? Like the mean gay whites. So, gay white men who have like affluence or who came from like, were well resourced, not being able to understand like the plight of gay men who don't have the same access, et cetera. Yeah. And then of course you have like the conversations around, when you have a marginalized group, sometimes that marginalized group is looking to put somebody else down.
Oh yeah.
Which I can't believe we have 10 minutes left.
I know, exactly.
This is crazy.
It flew by so quick. I really was like, oh my God, we still have some more time. We're going to,
Yeah, this is what I mean. Like, I feel like we're literally, there's so many different things. Like, I wish, I want to come back to all of these things and like dig deeper.
Well, did you want to ask me some questions? Because I know that earlier you had some questions you wanted to ask me.
I think that was Louis.
I know. Well, no, it's like the questions.
I mean, I have questions. Oh, you mean from earlier? Yeah. But go ahead.
I'll ask you the middle one first. It's like, what brought you to recovery?
Well, one of the things that like really brought me to recovery was that I had reached a point where I had tried everything. And honestly, I was so miserable that the only thing I could see for myself was death. And, again, I'm not a suicidal person, but that's where I was at my last limit. Do you know what I mean? I'm 41 and I had been trying to get sober since I was 20. I found meth like really quickly, alcohol really quickly, and within 2 years I knew I had a problem. I knew that I didn't drink and use like other people. And I had been trying off and on through behavior modification at the time to get sober. And all that was left was to simply try something different. I had been coming to the club when it was a drop-in center and hang out with people. And I eventually got so comfortable with the people here that I think when I was actually ready to start something new and try something new, I knew where to come.
Yeah, right on.
I love the Castro Country Club, and it wasn't that hard for me to be like, this place is amazing. I need to go there and try it their way. And honestly, 10 years later, my life is so much different what it was emotionally. Like I want to live.
Oh, nice.
And for me, like that's a big jump from wanting to die. I see no existence for myself to being a person where all I want to do is live and get to tomorrow and try something new and, hang out with someone and be with someone.
I love it. Thank you for answering that. Yeah. So the question that I wanted to ask earlier, well, I actually like that we're rounding off with this, is like, given we've talked about race, when are socioeconomic status, what are the experiences that you have both had that had made you feel hopeful or that made you feel like, okay, this is good. I like the direction this is moving in, be it interpersonally or like maybe things you've witnessed.
Well, I mean,
excuse me.
I feel like I would need you to elaborate a little more, and that's just because of my own mental health.
Yeah, I can.
I'm a little, discombobulated and crazy by nature.
Yeah.
But if I'm understanding correctly, I mean, I feel like just coming into not just the Castro Country Club, but in the last 10 years, the miracles that I've seen, the transformation that I have seen, not just in my own life, but in the life of others. Like I've literally seen people come as broken as I was, if not more broken. And literally, after months, like all of a sudden they have a job, they have housing. Like those are things that I didn't think when I was using that I could ever have access to. And so like I get to see the miracle every morning when I wake up within myself, but I actively work hard to see the miracles, not just in myself, but others and in my surroundings. Just the fact that like I get to wake up in a warm bed, and I get to shower. Like I have like people try to keep it cute and I have no qualms about being real. And I think it's one of the things that people sometimes are like, you're a little too honest. And I'm like, well, you need to understand that like for me, am either honest or I'm a liar. Right. And there's no in between for me. I would lie about everything, my age, my race, because when I was out on the streets and I was doing sex work, it was either play up the Latina role so I could, be someone's fetish, or, if I just wanted to make some money and, to some degree, not be sitting there pretending to have an accent and, this person's my white savior, I would pretend that I'm white, And so did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. Okay. Really what I was thinking about, not really, but what I was thinking about are those moments when maybe I can lead by example here, like give you not lead by example, but give you an example. Like one of my favorite experiences that I had, it was my third year in grad school, and there was this site that I was applying to, and there was this trans woman who was at the site before me. And when she learned that, and she was a white trans woman. And so when she learned that I was applying, she was like, girl, let me help you. And she like looked at my cover letter. She like helped me prepare for the interview. And I was like, so that was like one of the first experiences where I was like, oh shit. Right? Like, here's this person. She could have kept all of that stuff away from me. She didn't know me from a can of paint. Like, she knew me, but she didn't know me.
I have a moment now.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that to me was like, I felt like here was this person who had like all this privilege, the privilege of access, but also just kind of like knew the internal workings of this place and like put her hand out. And
before you, let me share. So right after George Floyd, I didn't realize that I was starting to feel something. I was going through it, having that experience at work. I just dismissed it as the shit that I go through at, the owner at my job called me into the office, didn't know what was going on. And she asked me if I wanted to take a few days off because she knew that it was a lot. And it's situations like that.
I remember,
where folks like she paid attention. It's like, and anytime I have doubt, it's like, I know that she's an ally, because it was needed. I didn't know it, but I needed it because it was so much. It was like, I had almost reached my boiling point. I probably would have ended up in a turret somewhere doing unspeakable things.
What were you going to say, Anna?
So just from your example, like it really brings this memory that I have. And I think it was after my first year clean and sober, going into my second year. And it's the reason why I have the job that I have today. Like I said, I'm very lucky to have the little bit of education that I have, but I was so broken and such a mess, and I didn't really know how to do my application, how to do a cover letter. And there's this person in the rooms that to this day, I mean, other than being a woman and an addict, we don't really have a lot of things in common on paper. She is definitely, of privilege, Caucasian, And
from the mountains of Caucasoid.
from the mountains of Caucasoid, for sure. And also, like, I want to just add the context of, like, me being who I am, a trans woman, and where I come from. Like, cis women were never my friends. They were my friends until, you know, the man looked at me and showed interest, and then all of a sudden I was the enemy, right? And so to have this woman out of nowhere be like, hey, I have these skills and I'm going to help you, you know, whatever you need. And because she took the time, she showed love. Like, it's one of those moments in my recovery that really give me hope. And, yeah, I mean, to this day, I think I would go to, you know, heaven and back to help her in any way, not just because she gave me something, you know, because she gave me something that's also like, what's the word? Not tangible, right?
Yeah,
she showed me grace. She showed me love. And it came from all these things that, like, I've never thought in 1,000 years I would get it from.
Nice.
You know, a white woman of privilege. No, I never thought that this individual would go out of her way the way she did to make sure that, you know, this transsexual got a job. And to this day, I think about her every time I go to work, every now and then. Just the fact that I've been at my job for almost 9 years. Nice. Like, that's amazing.
Oh, she can keep a job.
Oh, now she can. Yeah. I mean, it also helps that I don't sleep with the boss.
Okay,
you know,
girls,
I had a habit of doing that, and I don't recommend it, especially because they're never honest.
Yeah.
They're not going through a divorce. No matter what he tells you, they're not going through a divorce. Don't do it.
Oh, we should land the plane. Well, and then we'll go to like podcast exclusive content.
Yes. So the Castro Country Club is a safe and sober community center for all people and a refuge for the LGBTQ recovery community.
We provide programs and services that help people change their lives by supporting personal growth.
Our vision is to reduce the suffering of addiction by connecting people to community opportunity and support.
You can find more information, including all the ways to contact us at www.castrocountryclub.org/podcast. Did I say 4 W's?
Yes, and tune in every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We go live on our Castro Country Club Facebook and YouTube channels.
Find us wherever you listen to podcasts. Okay, we're still recording. How was that for you, Anna?
That was fun.
Yeah?
I forget these lights and I'm burning up. Like, I'm sweating.
I know.
Yeah.
Like a whore in church.
Yeah, we're all having our personal,
a whore in church.
personal,
Like a whore in
having
church.
our personal summer.
Who believes in a vengeful God, you know? I'm glad that that's not my truth today, but I am sweating.
Oh my God.
Testicles and testicles, I can't. Oh my
I'm
God.
so stupid. I am so
before
tired.
I forget, I just want to say that I love seeing you. Lately, I've been seeing you almost
Oh my
every
God,
morning.
me too, Anna. That makes my fucking day.
Like, it's hard because you're like having to go to work, and so am I, because I'm usually running late.
Yeah.
And I just want you to know how much joy it gives me to see you.
Yeah.
And just the brief moments that you're like, hey, Anna, like, it brings me so much joy.
Anna, honestly, same here. Same here. Totally changes my day. It just feels really like, same here. Totally changes my day. You're just so warm. You're so loving. And it feels like it's turned into this like routine almost.
Oh yeah. I'm like, am I going to see him this morning?
I know.
I'm like, yes. Universe, bring him into my life.
I just want to recommend one of those mornings you guys get a room.
Wow.
There's this love
I'm
fest.
not ready for kids.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I don't know how to answer that question.
Thank you for saying that. That's very sweet.
No,
I
it
feel the same
really
way.
does. I mean, my life and schedule has really changed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think on top of that, the other thing that I wish, I think there was a podcast on it, But if not, it was like, I think it was the mental health one, because mental health like plays such a part for me in my everyday.
Oh, that's real.
And
Yeah.
I guess because I don't look as discombobulated as I feel inside, people think I'm okay for the most part.
That's a tough one.
But people don't realize that like I get up early in the mornings and literally for 30 minutes to an hour, I have to talk myself to get out of bed.
Yeah.
Because yes, I take my meds, but people don't really understand what like
That's
it is
real.
to live
Yeah.
with mental health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it's made worse by like, oh my God, is today the day that, you know, someone's going to be transphobic, or is this
Right.
the day someone's going to like beat me up, shoot me?
Yeah.
Or, you know, is this because now I live on 6th Street too. And I'm just like, I have to literally put on layers and layers and layers of armor just to leave my house. And I was talking to a friend recently, and I hadn't realized that I've been, you know, using my tomboyness as like subconsciously as a way to kind of protect myself.
Yeah.
Because this was a friend who like has known me for many years, and she was like, you were always pretty tomboyish, but lately other than when you're in drag, there's hardly anything feminine attire. And that was so not you. And I had to like really sit and reflect on that. And I'm like, why am I scared to wear a skirt or a dress? It's definitely not because I don't know that I'm trans. I know I'm trans. But it's really, I had to sit back, and it's just, I'm subconsciously, and consciously like so scared of what's going on right now. And that has been happening for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
To walk out and be more of a target, because I do feel like I'm visibly trans, I'm visibly myself, and just to add more stuff to that, it really scares me.
I feel that.
Seeing friends, seeing other friends.
I mean, I think that's a blessing that we all have, because I have more people that I see. I always joke and say I don't like people, but there are people that I see, and I light up when I see you, I see you guys. I light up, and that to me is just such a gift, and it helps. You know, like you're talking about the mental health, because it's like
100%. Yeah.
knowing that, like, and it's like one of the reasons why we can have this conversation is because it's not lost on me that I trust everybody in this room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we talk about this being a brave space, meaning because it requires us to be brave, because even though we don't have people like directly, you know, we'll have people sign in, and I mean, I feel like I can talk about this and not worry about somebody seeing me on the street, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a blessing.
I want to say that for the longest time,
Oh, I thought you were going to go and say you're into fluids.
I am really into fluids.
Totally into fluids.
I love fluids so much.
Oh my goodness.
What
You see his bandana in his back pocket?
Yeah.
I'm all.
Yeah. I'm peeing along my leg right now.
Wow.
So, what the fuck was I gonna say?
Sorry.
I love fluids. Okay. I used to, for the longest time, wanted to be like quote unquote normal, right? I'm like, I don't want all the mental health stuff that I have going on. I wish I wasn't an addict and an alcoholic. I wish I came from a different family. I wish things weren't so hard. I wish I didn't, right? And all that stuff. And I think about people like you and people like Lewis, and to me, it's like, oh my God, I'm so glad that I've had these experiences and I live in the body that I live in, because I get to have these relationships, right? And like that makes it all feel worth it, right? And I for the longest time, like I remember I wanted to be like these people who seemed like they were unfazed by anything. And like, what I'm realizing is that like my community and my people are the other people who feel fucked up, you know? And that to me, like, I can live and breathe it there, right? You know what I mean? Like all the suicidal ideation in the world does not exist when I'm like, you know what? I'm just talking to my other crazy peeves, you know what I mean? And being in community in that way.
That happened to me at year 5, where I stopped wanting someone else's life, and I stopped wanting to be normal.
Yeah.
Because especially for me, I come from a sober family of service. And I have like genuinely believe, at least for me, that everything that I've gone through is to benefit others, right? to help the other freaks and the other weirdos.
Yeah.
Like today, it's funny. I wanted to be normal, and I would hate it when people would call me weird and a freak. And it's like, no, today I grab onto those and I like find the pride and joy in those things, because I think that what makes us different is actually what makes us better people.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, 100%.
I do not want to be normal, living in the suburbs, having missionary sex.
Not missionary
Pumpkin
sex.
spice
Having
drinking.
missionary sex, going to Starbucks and going to Marshalls. Like, no. I want to go to Mr. S and I want to put on some mesh shorts, and then I want to go have cocktails, mocktails with my friends.
Absolutely.
While someone is swallowing next to me, you know.
You know what I mean?
Exchanging fluids.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like I was at my birthday party, there like I felt like everyone there represented like my life. It was like every single fucking race was there. Every single like age was there. You know what I mean? Like you could not, what the highest praise was a friend came up to me and said, Anthony, because you know how sometimes you can go to an event and you'd be like, oh, everyone here, right? Like, oh, they all look the same, or they all
usually the case.
Right. And like that wasn't at my party. That wasn't what was happening. It's like you literally had everything. There were straight people, there were gay people, there was women, and there was men. And it wasn't even like an off balance of women and men, right? Like it was like, and
it's not like you were doing a checklist.
And I wasn't. I was like, no, these are just like the people that like I love, And then I also like invited people that are not like, but people aren't big fans of, you know what I mean? And I'm like, no, I love those weirdos too. You know what I mean?
I know. I took
as a fellow weirdo.
I was making a list. I'm all, the fuck? I'm all, I need to see the invite before I come.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing for me is that like today I genuinely like, this is going to be interesting because I'm running for Grand Duchess, right?
I love it. I'm glad you could say that.
Okay, she's
and
running.
Grand
To me,
Duchess.
it's so interesting because once I run for Grand Duchess, I was already told a bunch of people are going to want to like send you friend requests and you have to accept them and da-da-da-da. And for me, that's going to be a new avenue because genuinely, if you are my friend on Facebook, it's because I either, have had a conversation with you.
Yeah.
I either believe similar to what you believe.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? And then to now all of a sudden have an influx of people that potentially, yes, on paper, we kind of look like we, are going to mesh. Yeah. But as we've seen lately, even friends that I've known for a while with everything going on in politics right now, I've had to defriend people because they're saying crazy shit.
It's super important. I mean, and I get this from Anthony and his when he talks about his experience with social media, I am constantly curating. It's like I'm constantly.
Oh yeah.
It's like my social media is a bonsai plant, and I'm constantly clipping and doing whatever. And there's absolutely nothing wrong, and I can still use it the way that I want to. But I'm sorry, it's like if I want to have certain conversations, I'd want to have them in person.
Yeah.
The worst is trying to have a conversation with somebody online.
Yeah.
And knowing in your heart of hearts that nothing's going to come from this, but still feeling like you can make a difference and finding out that it's just a waste.
I'm just no longer, if I don't care who you are, if you feel that your life is more important than mine and you feel that I don't deserve the same rights as you, that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't be your friend.
That's a non sequitur. It's like, we're good. Check,
I'm
please.
done.
Yeah,
if you can't, if you really, like, I have friends that are openly Christian, that are open,
openly Christian.
You know what I mean? And it's funny because when I have conversations with them, when I first met them, I came with my own baggage as a survivor of, organized religion. I don't know if I want to talk to you, if I want to be your friend. And what I've learned is that these are I guess, if anything, the true Christians that you hear about in the Bible, because they're like, yeah, I believe in what I believe, but I also don't feel like I have the right to take anything away from you.
Right.
I feel like you still deserve the right to live as who you are and be who you are. And I'm like, that's as easy as it should be. Yeah. All these Christians that are, praising and, I'm all about love, and it's like, no.
That's why I'm starting to really appreciate the messaging that the Democrats are trying to do when they talk about abortion. You don't have to change your value structure to know that you don't want the government making decisions for you. You don't want others. I mean, and it's really important to help people to understand. Like, I'm not telling you that this is whatever. Believe what you must, but you gotta understand this. Like, it is so important that we don't have forces outside of us saying you do not have autonomy over your body. It's like,
yeah. I had to have a conversation with a particular person that we know because he was like, I'm tired of all this abortion talk. It doesn't affect me, and it doesn't really matter. And da 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 da. And I was like, I know that you're a man, and that you're not worried about, your body and like producing children and all this other stuff. But again, this other person should not have to worry about those things either.
Absolutely.
So whether you agree with it or not, you should at least agree with the baseline that they have the right to do whatever it is with their body, And he followed it up with some stupid comment and then
of course,
defriended.
And then you hit him.
No, I'm not trying to go back to jail, get deported. I'm good.
It's 9:00, so we need to.
I know.
We need to land the plane again.
It's just getting good.
I know, and I'm
It's
so
fine,
tired.
I'm
I am so sleepy.
Oh my God.
Like, I could sleep right now.
I really think this coffee helped my trazodone because I'm like barely starting to feel it.
The trazodone.
Yeah.
I can't believe you took trazodone before coming on. Yeah.
I thought about it once I said it, and I was like, maybe I shouldn't have had, but then I went and got coffee to see.
Okay, before we end, so I'm on trazodone too for sleep. And so normal prescription is 50 milligrams. I can only take 25 milligrams because that shit knocks me out and it makes me groggy into the next day.
I take 60.
Bitch, I have a friend who takes 150.
Damn.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Damn, and then they're like,
150.
I take it
one little drool that won't fall out.
For my bipolar.
Oh,
because
okay.
I'm bipolar 1. So I
Oh,
run
the
manic.
manic,
I
yeah,
run
yeah.
manic or super manic, right? And so literally, like before I started taking meds, like I would stay up till 2, 3, just not being able to quiet my thoughts.
Yeah.
And so trazodone is what, gets a bitch to go to sleep.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I mean, it knocks me the fuck out. But the thing is that once it knocks me out, it just takes a while. Okay, well, we need to go. The
we need to
producers are like,
evacuate.
they're playing the music.
putting us off.
He said, shut the fuck
It's
up. I'm trying to get home. This
They're
is
about
not
to
a
call
paid
ice
gig.
on me. I gotta go. My beans are soaking wet. I'm like